So, welcome to episode 34. So that's like 34 hours that we've had, which is kind of amazing. A number of things we've discussed, things we've learned, things we've
Welcome
enjoyed
to episode
figuring out.
34.
So, what I want to talk about today is goal setting. So, we're going to take questions, et cetera, like we do. Jody will join us in just a moment. But the question I proposed when I sent out the reminder email was simply, why does your homeschool goal setting fail? Why does that happen? Now, as I rush into this, say hi, tell where you're from. I'm going to get to the chat in a minute. But this question is really kind of important because a lot of times we don't realize that there is one particular thing that if we did it correctly, the rest of the goal setting process sort of takes care of itself. I'm going to show you exactly what that is, but I want to think about it first. So why does your goal setting fail? Well, first we got to define what fail means. So fail, the way I would posture it for you is that you can fail by not getting the result you want. So we'd say success is getting a result you want. Failing is not getting the result you want, the result you intended. If you get something better, that might be a fail, but it's still not successful goal setting. Maybe you got something magic happen. But what we're looking at is how to set a goal and be involved in a process of taking action to see that thing happen, you know, if if the Lord wills, or as Christmas time, as the fates allow, I think the song says. So if it works out. Now, the other thing is not progressing, and that's what most of us experience. The sense of failure is not about arriving, because that's so many years out, especially with little ones. If you're trying to get them ready to be happy adults, or further education or something like that, or career, trade, doesn't matter. All that's out there, but the problem is in the progress that you're engaged in. I want to do this thing, but the progress isn't happening. It's fits and starts, and like a number of mini fails, that it's not really going how I want it to go. So if you take that in mind, here's what I'm aiming at. Number one, these are reasons your goal setting is not working. Uh, First one is you have an an unrealistic or impossible goal. So a lot of times we set goals that are um, out of touch with reality, if I can say it politely. They're not realistic. They're not a thing that is going to happen. You know, um, saying you want to make $1 million by the time you retire, or in the next 10 years. Okay. By tomorrow, probably not. But people do that all the time with things, and they make themselves somewhat crazy because you're busy trying to set an expectation of being able to get to something in a way that's not going to happen, or the very result you want is not something that can happen. If you want your children to be geniuses, um, there's not much good evidence that says we can make somebody into a genius. What it does say is that if they're bright or maybe genius, we can feed the animal, provide a context, opportunity, but it's not the sort of thing that you can control. I want my children to play in the NBA or in the NFL. Well, good for you. But is that really the kind of goal that is realistic? Now, you could have a goal which is to have them do as well as they can in high school and then in college, and you can see where it goes. So that kind of thing can happen. But in terms of a goal, we really mean something that's going to organize and drive our actions, and we're going to measure our progress against it. We're going to measure our success about arriving at it. So I say all that to say you want to make sure they're realistic. They're something they make sense. Number two, flawed process. And I'm not to the big one yet. The flawed process. We got unrealistic or impossible, why it fails. So second is a flawed process. Your goal setting process is just flawed. And generally they're flawed for a couple of reasons. One is the steps you're actually choosing won't get you there. It just won't work. It won't happen, you know. So if someone wants to, oh, I don't know, but let's just say your kid, you want your child to learn uh, algebra, okay? But your process is to do one lesson a week or one lesson every other week. Well, that would never get you there. That process is not going to get them to learn. Well, maybe over time, but it's going to take years just to get through algebra. So you want to make sure that the steps make sense. The game plan that you have will get you there. And this is true of anything. If you're trying to lose weight, you can look at your strategy and say, will that work? You know, as long as you eat more than you burn, on balance, bodies are just designed to retain that. That's just how it works. So more of that conversation maybe some other day. The other thing is if your steps won't get you there, the other piece is it's a flawed process if you can't do the steps. So you can have good intentions and the steps would make sense if you could do them. But if you have a process or set of steps for your goal and you can't pull them off uh, because of time, because of discipline, maybe it could be weaknesses in you, it could be strengths, other things you're focused on. It could be you just don't know stuff. So when you look at something in terms of the steps to create the result, you've got to figure out, are these things I'm actually capable of doing? Will I follow it through? Can I get this done? And if not, you need either a different plan or you need some other resources, some other people or some tools or things that help you out. Number three, you can have a wrong focus. Your goals can fail because of a wrong focus. And the wrong focus is when you focus on the result, the goal, instead of the system to create the goal. So the system or the process or the steps are what's key. You basically use the goal as an architectural tool to design the process, and then the process is the key, and it'll spit out the result. So like, you know, if you're doing a recipe, making a meal of some type, you're actually not engaged in just thinking about, oh, how great it'll be when we put the souffle or whatever it is, brisket, whatever you're doing on the table. It'll be awesome. And that's all I think about is a brisket. No, what you do is you know that's in there, but actually you're focusing on the next step. Good piece of meat, let's say. Here I am a vegan, but I don't care about that. So a good piece of meat and tender properly, and then whatever the rub is, and then maybe a marinade, and it sits for a while, and then you got to get the grill ready, and then you've got to get it on the grill, a certain searing process you have, and then maybe it's a long smoking process. I don't know. I don't care. But what you focus on are those pieces. That's how it goes. And so if you spend too much time comparing the results you want to where you are, it's very frustrating. But if you'll focus on the system is really your goal, because if you follow the system, it should spit out the results you want. All right. So here's the big one. So we're talking about why our goal setting doesn't work. Here's the big one. And if you're not sitting down, that might be a good option, because this is painful and very important and not what anybody commonly is saying. And it's this, that you think you've set a goal when you hadn't, that you're just self-deceived. You actually think you've set a goal, but you hadn't set a goal. And we can usually tell because you're not taking the actions you need to. Now, here's what I'm getting at. When you set a goal, it's that you've decided to do it. So a lot of times with things in life, we've we've decided to try, to poke at it, to experiment, to see if it works, and that's okay, knowing you're doing that. But when we call, I'm going to do it as I'll try, if that's the game, the goal's not set. And there's a reason. It's because when you set a goal, you actually have decided to reach it. You've decided, you've made a decision. And the way decisions work, most of our lives, we're not making decisions. We're just going through automatic skills we've learned, things we've developed. We're reacting to stuff going on. I mean, you know that. You've driven. If you've driven, haven't you ever been driving for 10, 20 minutes and go, oh, I wasn't driving. But you had automatic systems, you've been trained, you've learned, and it did it. We do that with reading, we're not thinking a decision on each word. Look, when you decide something, this is your conscience, you're deliberate, and that's what happens. You deliberate, you consider, you debate, you research. And in that process, at some point when you decide, you literally are deciding no more deliberation, no more debate, no more research. That's all done. Because once you decide, the deliberation stops. Considering, deliberating before deciding, that's how it works. But once you've decided, there's no discussion, no debate. Same with your kids. When you tell them something and they keep debating, obviously they don't think you've made a decision, but you have, or hope you have. But when they get it, it means we're not in the debate mode anymore. We debated it, we decided, it's done. We're not going back and revisit it because that means it wasn't decided. Now, you can revisit things, but know what you're doing. That'd be a new decision to undo the first decision or something like that. This works the same way with any steps in the process. You might continue to do research, don't get me wrong, but it would be for a step in the process. So the next step, maybe, okay, we've decided homeschool. Well, we need a math curriculum. Okay, so you do a math curriculum, so you're going to research it. And once you finally decide, like we did Saxon, you've decided. And once you've decided, then that's the one we're doing. If you keep second guessing, going back, maybe not, maybe this, maybe we should, maybe should a co-op, maybe a homeschool, maybe we should go back to school. It's all that means you haven't decided. That's why it doesn't work. And so my challenge to you is to sit down with yourself and have a good heart-to-heart talk and notice that the things you're continuing to debate means you haven't decided. That's all there is to it. I'm not sure why we're not pointing this out to everyone, but that's what we're here for, to try to think this stuff through. So once you decide, then do, right? So that's how it works. Decision, decide, then do. That might be a good mantra. Anthem, decide, then do. Decide, then do. But decide means you've considered it, you're through considering it, and you've made a decision. Game, set, match. Anyway, I hope that helps. Jody's going to come in here in a moment. And what we're looking for are your questions. So let me see if I can get to see what's happening here. And I bet I can. I have high hopes. Somehow, the way Zoom sets this up, it doesn't let me see a chat unless I go back in and come in like, I guess, is maybe a normal person or something like that. I don't know what it is. So let's see what's in our chat game here. West Virginia, San Diego. Obviously, we're in San Antonio. So that's all quite awesome. What kind of questions are in mind? It could be about this, could be about something else. It's strictly, it's kind of open-ended. In our world, it's all things homeschool, obviously. It's what we're aiming for here. But insights you have can work too, obviously. But what kind of questions are you wrestling with or you know people wrestle with, or common challenges. Generally as a category, it comes down to things like motivating the kids, or some particular learning challenge that kids have, or organizing the home type challenge. Any of those things are great. And even better, this in Switzerland. So, what time is it in Switzerland? Must be late in the day. So when we think about this, and I'm looking over my shoulder and I see the independent homeschool, and I talk about systems in there, and we have a course we do called How to Homeschool in 30 Minutes a Day, and it's very much on this kind of goal setting stuff I was talking about. Though this nuance about deciding, I think is a little different, a little helpful to me to think about this sort of thing. But what we're wanting is, what kind of questions are you wrestling with? And as I said, Jody will join us. All right. So, did your kids go through dual enrollment? Oh, this is such a great question. High school and community college. What do you think about it? All right. So, I'm pretty significantly contrarian on dual enrollment. I'm just not a fan of it. I want to share some reasons, okay? So I get the idea, and I'm not complaining at all. If that's your choice, go for it. I'm sure they're great examples of where it worked, but I want to give some cautions here. I do have company. So you can say hi.
Morning.
So somebody asked this glorious question about dual enrollment. Okay.
Okay.
So you and I have talked about this a little bit. So this dual enrollment could be high school, college, especially it's college and getting college credit. And it seems to be a great thing because it's really efficient. If you're doing dual credit things, you get out. Are you smelling
The
that?
pen was all crooked, and I'm like, oh,
Oh.
since I'm looking at myself.
All right. So it makes sense, and it's positive in that sense. It's you're getting credit for college, you're saving money, etc. But there are a couple of essentials I think should be rethought, and I've experienced it even recently with people who are close to us, or going through one of them. So when a child, if they're going to college, that's never in the game. They just want to study some other stuff. That's great, but then credit's not the issue. The content is. So there are online courses and other things they could do. If you're wanting the college credit, it seems like it's connected to either saving money or getting ahead or getting out faster or something like that. The problem is, first, colleges themselves are all not the same. So education from a community college is not going to be the same as a state institution. Not getting into the debate about agendas and is it worth it, and do they corrupt our kids and all that fun stuff. However, I'm just saying, on balance, we stay in a STEM world, even engineering or something. Getting an engineering degree at a junior college or community college, they offer them. I'm not saying that's not a bad thing, but it's not the same as getting an engineering degree from, who cares, University of Michigan, or Texas A&M, or University of Texas here, or University of Alabama, where Jody and I went. It's not going to be the same. And knowing that is important because it's all inside of a system. So if your kids are getting dual credit stuff, sometimes it doesn't even count with some of these schools, but if it does, they're not really learning inside that system what they need to know. Like English would be a good example. Getting out your basics in English. The quality, if you're going to study English literature at a major university, you actually, the basic classes are going to relate to their standards and the way they do things. To imagine that the dual credit thing is going to be, it's the same thing everywhere, is just, I don't think, a good way to actually be in touch with reality. It's literally not what's going on. So understanding the way I think about it, if you're going to sign on for a college and go through the curriculum, you ought to go through the whole thing because they somehow have a system that's trying to work together. The second problem I have with it is it destroys motivation. So it a lot of kids don't go on to do academic things where they maybe should because they feel like they've tasted it. They don't quite understand what college is. They think, oh, it's going to be maybe easy, too easy. I had a child like that. He didn't get why to go to college. And then he got to college. And it was actually for him too easy the first couple of years. Or maybe, well, he did 4 and 3, so I don't know how to measure easy. But it's like if college or further academics or studying or getting some kind of degrees or certifications are its own separate thing, then that becomes a new experience rather than the sense of, oh, I've tried it. And we run into this. We've got someone right now that just has some dual credit and does stuff and goes, yeah, I don't think I want to go anymore. They've got college set up, paid for. The area he'd work in would be STEM-ish, mechanical, and he don't want to for all kinds of reasons. But some of it, I'm convinced, is because we've gotten into, well, we did dual credit and it doesn't matter where you go to school because it's all the same material. And now they go, well, I sort of got it, so I don't need it. Rather than making it, no, it's a new stage, new game, new level. If that's what you're interested in, that's going to be where the game is. You want to add anything to all that?
No,
Or correct me. Yeah, I'm
no, when you started at the beginning, this is everybody's own decision. Just think through it, think through all the pluses and minuses of it.
yeah. We never did. That's all I can say. We did no dual credits. And the kids went out, some of them SAT 2 or CLEP or whatever, some things. It was fine for especially with what they were doing. But for the most part, they've all just had to go through that process and learn what all they needed to do. And they did college and they all graduated, some early, 2, 3. Yeah. So they went through it and they learned top to bottom what they needed to actually learn. I did that. I studied literature at the University of Alabama, and I actually could have skipped freshman English, but I didn't because I wanted to make sure that I really got it because I wasn't confident that I did. I actually made a very poor English score on my ACT because I overread instructions. I just didn't get what the game was on taking the test. Now we're better about we had no pre-test or anything like that.
No,
You know,
we didn't know. Our parents just dropped us off and said, I'll pick you up in 3 hours.
yeah,
We didn't know what we
Yeah.
were about to do.
see you later. So different game back then, but I did it and I'm very grateful because it gave me a reminder, refresher to get the foundation clear because I was into just wanting to learn how to learn. And that's what I think should be going on all the time anyway. And as we do in our writing course, we teach you to use a red pen and a green pen. Green means go, red means stop. And that came from a guy named Rick Dice, who was my freshman English teacher way back for forever ago. Okay, so that's probably enough on that. Other questions, let's say. It's 1747, so I could in Switzerland right now. So how does that
I
work?
don't know.
12 and 6 is 18, so it's late afternoon. Okay. So what is dual enrollment? Yeah, so dual enrollment is where they can get credit for college and high school at the same time.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
some schools offer it. Some kids go to the junior college, but it's where you'll, just what Fred said, you actually get credit for your high school transcript and college. So it's yeah.
Exactly. So questions, talk to me, talk to us. Really about anything, and especially I want to know also, was it helpful to think about decisions, about thinking you've set a goal, but you really haven't? And you can tell because you're still deliberating it, because a decision ends the deliberation. So, can you homeschool in Switzerland? Yeah, that's a good question. I know it's illegal in Germany. I'm aware of that too. Yeah, what's the trick in Switzerland? That'd be fun to know. We probably have states. Can you homeschool in all states?
Yes.
Good. Some of them sound
As far as I know.
Yeah.
I've never, yeah, some of them have a lot more requirements. Government checking in on you stuff. Texas is the least, or it used to be anyway.
Yeah,
Least amount of regulations
right.
and checking in on you.
Yeah, most amount of freedom.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
They'll just let us mess up our kids however we want to. Which is part of the challenge. I mean, liberty and control have a balance problem, because if people are totally free, then what extent to which you go, wait a minute, free to what? To steal, to kill, to maim, or etc. No. So we have to have some controls for sure. But inside that boundary, these antithetical things, we're still trying to find freedom, to follow our convictions or training to get results we want. And I'd call it a pretty big deal among us all, for sure. In some states, it's easier than others, some cantons in Switzerland. So tell me what else is on your mind. We like live questions. I do have a list of 100 homeschooling questions that I've collected, and I can pull out one because I'm not afraid to stop, but I also know something needs to spark your memory. I can tell you this: if you want to know about a problem or figure out a problem that you have, all you have to do is try to explain to yourself, what do you want? And the moment you decide I want a certain thing, then whatever's in the way of getting that are problems we could address. Doesn't matter what it is. So Anya Kali said, thank you for your info. No decision making. We have so many decisions while homeschooling. So helpful to aim at a decision and let it go and release stress. And that is true too. I should have stressed that. I appreciate you saying that, because when you've decided, then all that pondering, considering, et cetera, is over. So there is a release. There are a lot of other benefits. There's focus. It also tends to, it's like putting on infrared glasses, so you can actually see what you need and what you have as soon as you've decided, because then it's why the universe, like, it comes to your aid once you've decided to do it. It allows you to get out of that maybe, maybe not scattered thinking, to saying, all right, what is it that we need here to get this thing to happen? So, I mean, it's just like when you decide to go on a trip or on vacation. Once you've decided, you're not debating anymore, you're going to go, then all your orientation is about, what do I need to take, not take, set up, arrange, etc. It's all in motion. So I can't stress that piece enough at all. All right, so let's get this thing out here. Let's see. You see the homeschooling questions?
Have my glass on. I'm not seeing.
Sorry. Well, I'll just type it in. It's all technology. School questions. See? So let's see.
Questions up then.
Yeah, so there would be an interesting, weird question. I think we might enjoy, if there are none up here. So here's a question that is out there, and that is, what is a feasible budget for homeschooling? Well, feasible is an interesting question. This is how it was labeled out there. But when you think about feasibility, it can turn into what you can afford. And I think the question is sort of how cheap can we do this? And I think a lot of people honestly are involved in homeschooling because it saves a lot of money. And it really does. And not the only reason. I don't mean that at all, but it's a contributing factor. And I get that. You know, the cost of like private education or something is mind numbing. I mean, just genuinely, you know, you can get in high schools that'll cost you as much or more than your college, quite frankly. So money, you know, at some point, you've got to invest some money. I mean, and there, by the way, there are other things you save on: clothes and competition and, you know, keeping up with, and how many dances and events and presents and whatever the social mores are of the problem. Now, I think your kids ought to buy you a present. I think that would be very appropriate, you know, for Christmas. It rarely happens because it's already in the mom thing usually. Um, but the saving money is can be actually profound, especially the way we did it with a curriculum that all the kids went through. You know, we printed in our day, printed out the books and let them all read them, and they're tattered and worn out, you know, over
And
time.
we actually passed them on to somebody else that was doing Robinson.
No,
So they got
so there
5+ uses.
was that legal? I don't know if you're supposed to do that.
They had Robinson. They just
Oh, they just
we
didn't
had
have it.
printed them out
Okay.
already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we're saying
We
so.
didn't
All right.
cheat.
Good. So want to keep that straight. Um, so so what's feasible is going to relate actually to what the end results you want to be and how you approach it. In large measure, it doesn't take that much. If you have a good math curriculum and you have a good reading strategy, you know, you're probably going to need something with phonics. You're going to need something with books to read, but you can still do library, etc. There are a lot of things online, Project Gutenberg and other things. So there are ways to access this information, at least so far. Um, and so that's reasonable. A good writing course, we'd certainly recommend ours. You know, if you want your child to be a writer, find their own voice. The other programs are more about trying to do it mechanically, the right way, not as much about creativity. So and we teach you to do it right way too. But having those basic things, and especially when you think about it, when you can reuse those, it's just very efficient to have a math curriculum and each child can go through it. When you start having to purchase everything unique for every child, that's when it gets even more expensive, more difficult. But you know, it doesn't have to be a costly thing for it to be a good education. I mean, you know, in the lore of America, Abraham Lincoln, you know, is one of the great examples of someone who essentially educated himself, and you know, a log cabin and what books he could find and what he could do. There are other people like that. Benjamin Franklin was similar in terms of his energy and effort. But if you create an environment for them to learn, because you're the chief learning officer, the CLO, that's going to be the key. But it doesn't have to cost a fortune. There's not great magic in the quality of the pen or the quality of the paper or the binding and the beauty of the book. It may be, and that's something you value. I think that's cool. But there's a lot of efficiency that can happen in our day and age that isn't caught up in paying for all the overhead that a public school or private school or mass education context has to, because they have to provide buildings and gyms and materials and safety and all kinds of things. And we're just not caught in that. But as far as a number, it's going to relate to how much you need to spend and how much you're willing to spend. And if you can spend more than you need to, then that can be a quality special event, special things. You know, maybe you add a zoo membership and that's part of your homeschool. So you have any thoughts about all that?
No, that sounds good.
All right. I'm just sort of making it up as I go. But we've
Well,
talked about this for decades.
Talk,
you know.
Talk to your spouse, work it out with your spouse. I guess I could add that in. That needs to be a team decision.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. So, I know a bunch of folks are watching, but I really need some questions.
This
I
is what
provided
happens
one.
towards the end. People start asking questions and then we run out of time. So really it can be with family, kids, school, pretty much anything that you want to throw out.
Right.
Brad will.
And there are no dumb questions if there are also no dumb answers.
That's good. I like that.
That seems only fair. Yeah, and it can be a repeat of something in particular.
Or if you've tried something we've said and it's worked.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
all
we'd
good.
love to hear
Yeah,
that.
reports are that's a good thing. Because that's an answer. It's Q&A, and an answer is applied. All right, Vivian says, my youngest, now 15, has lost motivation for schoolwork. How do I inspire him to love learning the necessary material? Okay, so great question. So my youngest, 15, how do I inspire him to love learning the necessary stuff? And I'm not sure there's a way to get him to love the necessary stuff. But I can tell you how motivation basically works. So you really want him to love it enough to do it, let's say it. And this is what people do. People basically gravitate towards things that are fun for them, and then they avoid things that aren't fun. So I've used other words before, like feel good. People want to do things that make them feel good. That can include avoiding something. So if you avoid something bad, that actually feels good. It's part of why we buy insurance. So, well, if something happens, the family will be cared for. So that feels good. So buying the insurance feels good, even though your hope is to have wasted all the money and never need it. So with a 15-year-old, there are things that may not be fun. He has other interests, other things he's doing. He may not have caught on. But fun can break down in two important ways. One way is the activity itself. So like I'm going to pick on reading a little bit, but an activity itself can be fun. Let me jump to sports real quick. So a golfer that likes to hit golf balls and can hit 300 golf balls at a range, they have a good shot at becoming a good golfer because of that much practice. If hitting golf balls isn't fun to you, it's going to be hard to be a very good golfer. So reading itself can be fun, just the activity itself. Some people just love to, they like to construct things. That's fun for them. Not for me. That's not a fun thing. Sit and think something through for a couple hours and make notes, just some weird idea. That's fun for me. I think most people wouldn't um, uh, jazz on that much. What are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You can fix me.
Keep going.
But with reading is a good example. So you've got this activity can be fun, but you can also have the outcome that can be fun. So it's fun to get this thing, whatever it is. Could be a degree, it could be a car, it could be banana split. I don't care. But so a banana split, it's fun to go to that place to get a banana split. But you got to go through the hassle of putting your shoes on and getting in a car and going somewhere, etc. Those things in combination are part of the secret. So if in reading, if somebody enjoys reading, that's great. They just enjoy the actual activity. I actually did not, and I can't say I do. I don't enjoy reading, though I've read thousands of books in my life. What I enjoy though is I enjoy learning, and when I saw reading as a bridge to learning, so I started getting books about things I was interested in learning or finding out about. And so then reading became a means to get something. So it wasn't the activity I liked, it was the result. So with a 15-year-old, here's what I'm getting at. Your 15-year-old, if you think about it that way, uh, the resistance he's indicates or tells me that he probably thinks he has an option to get out of it, you know. So that would be something you want to think about. Like he thinks there's a negotiation rather than, no, we're going to finish homeschool. We're going to get to this level. You've got to do these courses. Sorry. But what is it that he can get to by doing this basic stuff? He may not be motivated by college. He may not be motivated by finishing uh, homeschool, and who would expect him to? But he can be motivated by what he gets to do during the day. There are activities he wants to do. There are things he wants to achieve and accomplish. And everybody has something generally, even if it's gaming or if it's sports or if it's, I don't know, going out in the woods and chopping down trees. I don't know. See, everybody likes something. And so if you can tie the game to it, that, sorry, there are necessary things we do in life that aren't fun per se, but they are wise. And it's wise to learn these basics because they build towards other things. It gives you more choices in life. In fact, the choice is not to ever use it, but learning that is going to make a difference. So when you tie something he doesn't want, something he does, then you're golden. We did that. I remember the boys getting things done that Jody wanted them to do. And until we set up a system where you can't go out, these are late teens, later teens. You can't go to your thing until you get that thing done. If it's been clear, it's done today, it's got to be done today. Sorry, plan. Because that's going to be life. Life is going to be loaded with doing some things you don't like to do. I'm sure there are people that just love to fill out their taxes. It's fun for them. It's a joy. Not most of us, but we still have to get it done. And I'd point you to, if you're interested in like wisdom literature, there's a very fascinating passage in the book of Proverbs. So Proverbs are these, sayings about how life goes. And it talks about, it's in Proverbs 10:23. And in Proverbs 10:23, it basically says, in the version I was looking at, that fools delight in doing wickedness. And it calls it as like sport to them. But then it says in the next verse, and so is wisdom to a person of understanding. So there's something about when we're trying to learn to be wise that is fun about doing those things that are hard, because we know they develop our character. We know that they help us mature. We know other people are watching. We know that actually doing those things set in motion better things in our life. And a lot of life is that way. The things that motivate you, that'll feel good, that are fun to get or to do, that's great. Some of these things that are necessary to get that done is necessary. I mean, honestly, most men that get married, in my experience, my friends, people I've known doing weddings all my life, most men just are great with the wedding part, don't really enjoy the suit shopping, getting fit for your tux, prep stuff. That's just not a fun thing to them, but they're willing to do it in order to get the thing they want. So if you can tie to your 15-year-old some understanding of what do you want, that you do want, and this stuff you don't want is necessary for it, he'll be fine. I'll give you an example. Brooks, I may have shared before, goes to college. He's in economics and mathematics, and he's struggling still with me. He says, I just don't get why I need to study this. I know this stuff. And he probably did the first couple of
And he
years.
already had a job in the field
He already had a job in the field.
that he was interested in.
Yeah, he was, all that. And I said to him, as we were thinking about it, I said, well, you told me one time that you're interested in leading technology teams. And he said, true. And I said, you're not going to get to lead technology teams if you don't have a degree. You could be, build your own company like Gates or somebody, fine. But realize that on balance, the way it's going to go in this area, mathematics and programming, all this stuff, you're probably, to be a leader, you're going to need a degree, And I talked to friends about it, and my engineering friend said it's really kind of funny because all the math all the math guys, they're scared of because engineers can't remember how to do the math. I don't know if that's true, but it's what he said. But once he heard that and got it in his head, yeah, I need that to position myself. Then he just did school. And the way he got over it was do it faster, which I would offer to kids too. If they want to get their basic stuff done a little faster during the week, if they want to work a little more outside of class, for example, so they can get Friday off of the basics I mean, I did that with Brooks when he graduated. We actually went through a process his senior year. I just stacked up the remaining books I wanted him to read, and I said, when you get them done, you're done. He'd already finished the math, he'd the science in there, but basically that was where we were at that stage with him, and he knocked it out. He got through a little early, so that motivated him. It's not like he really wanted to read all those, but he wanted to get through, and that's the key. You have that primary thing you want, and these secondary things that you don't want, but you do want them because they serve the primary thing. Whew. That's a lot of words.
No, but that is important too. I think at 15, 16, 17, maybe start thinking, okay, so you don't think you want to finish high school. So you don't think you want to go to college. Okay, fine. What are you going to do? And do you think that'll work for you? And, how can you make a living that way? Do you think a girl, the type of girl you would like to marry is going to be interested in a person that didn't finish high school, or he's not quitting. I know you're not letting him quit, but just to even put in their mind some things about the future.
Right.
Like,
and sometimes they have a future that they figured out that they want to do, work, on a king crab boat in Alaska. Well, that's fine. There's still some advantages to knowing how to do math because you got to count the crabs, So all I'm getting at is, just tying that together. So, Nabia, I guess I'm saying that correctly. Can you speak on planning curriculum schedules, your tips on staying organized, as well as what your thoughts are on promoting your child's interests in relationship to the learning material? So, promoting the child's interest probably was the conversation we just had, how to get them interested or encouraging their interest. I mean, some of the problem with kids is also green eggs and ham. They honestly just don't know if they're going to like something or not. So they need to try it. I do not like them. Sam, I am. How do you know? Hadn't had them. You got to try it. You got to get in there and taste and see and start finding out, so some of that is just general prep. I mean, this is anybody that excels at anything has this. Athletes, if they love the gym, love lifting weights, that's great. But most of them love playing in the game more. And so all that stuff serves playing in the game. So you want to keep that in mind. On curriculum and scheduling. So the way we have experienced it and think you want it to operate is you want a process that if you follow it, it spits out a consistent result. Okay. So if you want, if you're famous for your pancakes, you probably have a process that puts out a quality pancake every time you cook it. If you vary the recipe constantly, sometimes it'll be great, sometimes not. And this goes with anything: how to write a book, how to give a speech, how to befriend people. People that don't make friends easily don't have a very consistent way to approach friends. People don't understand what they're reading. They don't have a good process that consistently helps them understand what in the world they're looking at. So if you understand that principle, that the more, and I'm not talking about a factory, and I'm not talking about control, but I'm talking about a rhythm and a pattern and a sequence, that if it's consistent and makes sense, it'll keep putting out the results you want. So I can only tell you for us, and Jody can address this better because she was more intimate to it. But for us, what we found is we basically, in our rhythm, we wanted to do school in the mornings and let them be free or involved in extracurricular stuff in the afternoons. And nights were the same. Nights were never homework or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Nights were
Mm.
them gearing up for bed, settling in as they got older, activities they might be involved with. A lot of, being together as a family. So all that was in there. But in that pattern, then how we did the mornings was we started at 7, and basically that got through at noon, or probably noon 30, like yeah, about that, 12:30, because just the nature of, with us in the scope, there was 2 hours done of math that was divided eventually, 2 hours of reading divided, and an hour is really about 30 minutes of writing. They got really good at it and efficient, and usually 30 minutes of some activity, go outside and run.
Physical.
Yeah, something physical to do. But in that game, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to get it done, and we had limits on how long they could work. So you can work an hour on this math, and then you'll do reading, and then later another hour on the math. If you don't get your math done for the day in that 2 hours, then you're going to have to do it in the afternoon. You're going to finish it then. We're not going to go through a process of just work on your math until you get it done, and then maybe we'll do something else. Nope. You need a limit to sit there and do it. You do this all the time. Just to drive somewhere, you think in terms of limit. When I want to be there, what speed am I going to go to get there? Work is going to be that way. You need to be there on time. We've got a certain amount of stuff to get done. Then you get to go home. Then you get paid. Everything works that way. And in my experience, when we violate that principle is when we create chaos for ourselves. So I'm not talking about a rigid schedule. I'm not talking about you can't cancel it some days, but I'm saying it's a pattern or rhythm. And so here's what we're doing. We're up at 7. And the way we did it with our kids was you can't start until everybody's at the table, which means you can't finish until you start. So pretty much they started getting each other up, took care of it. Groovy. And then in that game, just that sequence of understanding, here's the subject now. Everybody's doing it. Next subject, everybody's doing it. Next subject, everybody's doing it. And then they're done. And then they're free. And what that rewards is them go ahead and getting it done. Now you've got to work with it and figure out how many problems can they reasonably do in whatever period of time you have. Maybe it's an hour. But setting up that game where they're working consistently every day on their subjects has the effect of what they call, the principle. I mean, you call it anything, you call it karma if you want to, but it's the law of kind of reaping and sowing. So some effort at something produces a result, and more effort, more result. And then you put more time in, you get better. So you're really engaged in skill development with your kids, and that comes by repetition and practice and feedback. And that's basically, I think, the crux of the game.
Yeah, and it gets back to what Fred was teaching at the very beginning. Well, once you have that pattern, that system going, though, you don't have to make those decisions. You don't have to sit there every day and think, are we going to do school? When are we going to start? How much are we going to do today? This or that, and you schedule your life. Okay, your mornings, you don't book appointments in your mornings if you can help it, because you don't want to get off your rhythm.
Right. And some days you might cancel school and go do a trip or something.
Well, sure.
We had a little different rhythm on Saturdays. They did do math, that was all. But they could do it anytime before supper.
Yeah.
Because
they might have spent the night out before, right, or something like that.
Something may have happened, or some project in the morning. They also, in our world, if they could do a service project, picking up trash with a group on the road, or serving a homeless ministry, or just different things they did over the years, or helping clean up some project at church, anything like that, they could skip math. So if they were serving
on that day,
Saturday.
On
that one day, so that was another.
And then we've talked some about this before. We did school year round. We also did it in the summer. So
right.
That was another part of our rhythm.
And that rhythm freed us up to not be so stressed. Yeah, to be able to do other things, take times
Mm-hmm.
off, etc. So yeah, that would be the crux of it. All right. Hope this was helpful. It was certainly loads of fun. I guess you seemed to enjoy it, had a good crew, and appreciate the questions. And obviously, this is like lesson 34. There are 33 other hours of this kind of conversation. So don't be afraid to go back and listen to pieces. And I'll probably clip out some pieces occasionally and post them just as separate small units. But we love you guys. We're cheering for you. Keep up the good work, and hope you're getting up for good holidays.